The air in the briefing room was cold and stale. Captain Lisa Warren looked at the faces of her crew one by one. They didn't know yet why they had been called here. She did, and the weight of that knowledge sat heavy on her shoulders. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "As of this morning, our mission parameters have changed. What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level." The room grew quiet. 20 of Earth's best space explorers, scientists, and military personnel exchanged nervous glances. Dr. Alan Nichols, a thin man with tired eyes that had seen too many late nights studying the stars, stepped forward to stand beside her. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his glasses. "The horizon wasn't built just for solar system exploration," Captain Warren continued. "It was designed for one specific purpose, to cross the veil." A wave of whispers swept through the room. The veil was what everyone called the strange boundary that surrounded our solar system. No manned ship had ever returned from beyond it. 12 missions over 30 years, all gone without a trace. Officer Kelly Martinez, their navigation specialist, was the first to speak up. "Captain, with all due respect, that's a suicide mission. We all know the statistics." "I'm aware of the risks, Officer Martinez. We all are. But Dr. Nichols has a new theory about the veil that changes everything." "Doctor?" Nichols cleared his throat and tapped on his tablet. The room darkened, and a holographic display appeared in the center, showing a shimmering, shifting boundary of light. "For years we've assumed the veil is a natural phenomenon, some kind of energy field or spatial anomaly," Nichols began, his voice growing stronger as he spoke about his life's work. "But my research suggests it's artificial. It was created, and if something was created, it can be understood and passed through safely." Commander Sam Powell stood up from his seat in the back. His military posture never wavered as he walked to the front. "Let me be clear about what's at stake. Every ship we've sent has vanished. No distress calls, no debris fields, nothing. Just corrupted data packets that make no sense." "Almost nothing," Dr. Nichols corrected. "There was one message." Powell shot him a warning look, but Captain Warren nodded. "They deserve to know everything if they're going on this mission." Powell's jaw tightened, but he tapped his own tablet. A scratchy audio recording filled the room. "Cannot maintain. They are watching. Do not." Static swallowed the rest. "That came from the USS Endeavour 7 years ago," Powell said. 3 seconds of transmission, then nothing. Ever. Jack Dawson, the ship's engineer, had been quiet until now. He ran a hand through his messy brown hair and leaned forward. "That's why the horizon has all those experimental systems I couldn't figure out. The quantum bubble generator, the phase-shifting shields. They're not for exploration. They're for survival." "Correct," Captain Warren said. "The horizon is the most advanced ship humanity has ever built, specifically designed to do what no other ship has done, cross the veil and return." Dr. Mia Franklin, their xenobiologist, raised her hand. She was younger than most of the others, her face still carrying the hopeful expression of someone who believed in the good of the universe. "What do we expect to find on the other side? Just empty space? Or something else?" Dr. Nichols looked at Captain Warren before answering. "The corrupted data packets we've received contain fragments of images, structures, massive ones. There's something out there, Dr. Franklin, something big." Security Chief Frank Lambert folded his arms across his broad chest. "So we're potentially facing a hostile force that has destroyed 12 of our ships, and we're just going to fly right up and say hello?" "We don't know they're hostile," Captain Warren replied. "We don't know anything for certain. That's why we're going." Communications Officer Ryan Garcia, barely 25 and the youngest crew member, spoke up from his seat. "When do we leave?" 48 hours, Captain Warren answered. "Just enough time to make final preparations and say goodbye to loved ones." The room fell silent again as the reality sank in. They might never return. "I won't lie to you, Captain," Warren said, breaking the silence. "This mission carries extreme risk. If any of you want to withdraw, you can do so without any mark on your record. No one would blame you. No one moved. Whether from duty, curiosity, or pride, they stayed in. Their seats. Dr. Nichols switched the display to show the horizon, their ship. Sleek and powerful, twice the size of any previous explorer vessel, with strange bulges and arrays that marked its experimental technology. The ship leaves in 48 hours, with or without you, Captain Warren said. Dismissed, as the crew filed out. Captain Warren remained behind with Dr. Nichols and Commander Powell. They took it better than I expected, Powell said. They're the best Earth has, Warren replied. That's why they were chosen. Dr. Nichols stared at the image of the veil still floating above the table. What if I'm wrong? What if it's not artificial? What if we can't get back? Captain Warren placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we'll have given Earth more data than any previous mission, and maybe the next ship will make it home. 2 days later, the horizon left Earth's orbit. The mood on the ship was tense but focused. Each crew member had made their peace with the mission in their own way. As they passed Mars, Officer Martinez noted that they were making better time than expected. The Horizon's engines were performing beyond specifications. By the time they reached the outer planets, strange things began to happen. Equipment malfunctioned for no reason. Some crew members reported hearing whispers when no one was around. Security Chief Lambert found unknown energy signatures in empty corridors. It's starting, Dr. Nichols said when Captain Warren called a meeting about the incidents. The veil affects space and time around it. We're feeling its influence already. Can the ship handle it? She asked. It has to, Engineer Dawson replied. I've triple-checked every system. We're as ready as we'll ever be. A month into their journey, they saw it. The veil. From a distance, it looked like a shimmering curtain stretched across the stars. Beautiful. Alien. Terrifying. All hands to stations, Captain Warren ordered over the ship-wide comm. Prepare for boundary approach. This is what we came for. As the horizon moved closer, the ship's sensors began to fail one by one. The veil's shimmer grew brighter, filling the viewports with strange shifting light. Activating quantum bubble, Engineer Dawson called out, his fingers dancing across his console. The ship hummed as its experimental systems engaged. Everyone held their breath. Veil contact in 10 seconds, Officer Martinez announced. Captain. Warren gripped her chair arms. This was it. The moment that would either make history or add them to the long list of the missing. 5 seconds. 4. 3. 2. 1. The horizon touched the veil, and everything changed. The moment the horizon touched the veil, all lights on the ship went out. For 3 terrifying seconds, the crew floated in complete darkness. Then emergency power kicked in, bathing everyone in dim red light. Status report, Captain Warren called. Out, her voice cutting through the chaos of alarms and confused shouts. Main power down, backup systems at 60%, Engineer Dawson replied, his fingers moving rapidly across his console. Hull integrity holding, but the quantum bubble is failing. Officer Martinez stared at her navigation screen in disbelief. Captain, according to these readings, we're everywhere and nowhere at once. I can't get a fix on our position. The viewports showed only swirling, shifting patterns of light. Colors that didn't exist in normal space danced across the walls. Some crew members had to look away to avoid getting dizzy. The veil is thicker than we thought, Dr. Nichols said, checking his instruments. We're inside it now, not through it. Think of it as the space between spaces. Security Chief Lambert drew his sidearm when the ship's internal sensors picked up movement in empty corridors. We have intruders, he announced, his voice tight. That's impossible, Commander Powell said. We're sealed tight, and no one could survive out there. Dr. Franklin, the xenobiologist, studied her own readings with growing excitement. It might not be a physical presence, at least not in the way we understand it. The energy patterns I'm detecting suggest something more like consciousness. Captain Warren ordered a full security sweep anyway. The teams found nothing solid, but everyone reported the same strange feeling of being watched. Communications Officer Garcia sat at his station with headphones on, his young face pale and drawn. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions, but they're wrong. Wrong how? Captain Warren asked. They're in English, but they make no sense. and they're coming from inside the veil. He removed his headphones and let the strange messages play. Through the bridge speakers. Return function invalid. Human parameters acceptable. Waiting for 87 cycles. Recalibration required. The voice sounded mechanical, yet somehow alive. It's responding to our presence. Dr. Nichols said quietly. The veil isn't just a barrier, it's aware. For 3 days, the horizon drifted through the veil. Systems would fail and then mysteriously repair themselves. Crew members reported dreams of stars talking to them. Officer Martinez found herself able to predict system failures before they happened, as if she were developing a sixth sense. On the 4th day, Engineer Dawson made a discovery that changed everything. "Captain, you need to see this," he called from engineering. When Captain Warren arrived, he showed her what looked like a small window in the ship's hull, but instead of showing the swirling lights of the veil, it showed stars. Normal space. Was running diagnostics on the quantum bubble generator when I noticed energy was being drawn to this spot, Dawson explained. It's like the veil is thinner here, showing us what's on the other side. Can we push through? She asked. Maybe, but the ship wasn't designed to handle this kind of stress. We could break apart. Captain Warren called a meeting of the senior crew. They gathered in the mess hall, the only space large enough to hold them all comfortably. We have a chance to complete our mission, she told them. But it comes with significant risk. I want opinions. Dr. Franklin spoke first. Whatever is out there has been trying to communicate with us. I don't think it means us harm. Then why did 12 ships disappear? Security Chief Lambert countered. Why no survivors? Maybe there were survivors, Dr. Nichols suggested. Just not in a form we'd recognize. Commander Powell shook his head. That doesn't help us decide what to do now. Officer Martinez had been unusually quiet. When she finally spoke, her voice was distant, as if part of her was somewhere else. We need to go through. It's why we're here. It's why I've always been here. Everyone turned to look at her. What do you mean by that, officer? Captain Warren asked carefully. Martinez blinked and her eyes cleared. I don't know why I said that, but I'm certain we need to continue. They debated for hours. In the end, it was Engineer Dawson who provided the solution. We can modify the quantum bubble to focus all its energy on that thin spot, he suggested. It might give us enough of an opening to push through. The work took another 2 days. During that time, the strange occurrences on the ship increased. Tools would move on their own. Crew members would find notes written in their own handwriting that they had no memory of writing. The ship's computer began to display calculations no human had programmed. While they worked, Communications Officer Garcia continued to monitor the strange transmissions. Slowly, patterns emerged. The messages weren't random. They were instructions. They're telling us how to get through, he told Captain Warren, his eyes wide with wonder. All this time, they've been trying to help us. On the 7th day inside the veil, they were ready. The whole crew strapped into crash positions. The modified quantum bubble generator hummed louder than ever before. All hands, prepare for breakthrough attempt, Captain Warren announced over the ship-wide comm. If this works, we'll be the first humans to see what's beyond the veil and live to tell about it. Engineer Dawson initiated the sequence. The ship shuddered violently as the quantum bubble focused all its energy on the thin spot he had discovered. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a sound like tearing fabric filled the ship. The viewports went completely black. Maximum power, Captain Warren ordered. The Horizon's engines strained to their limits. Warning lights flashed across every console. The hull groaned under forces it was never designed to withstand. We're breaking through, Officer Martinez called out. Her voice, filled with both fear and excitement. A blinding flash of light filled the ship. When it faded, the crew found themselves staring at a sight no human had ever reported before. Stars. But not the stars they knew. These were brighter, closer, more numerous. And among them, massive structures that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. We're through, Dr. Nichols whispered in awe. We made it. But their victory was short-lived. As the horizon drifted forward, they saw other ships floating in the strange space. Earth ships, the missing expeditions. They appeared intact but completely dead, like museum pieces placed carefully in the void. They made it through too, Commander Powell said. So why didn't they come back? Before anyone could answer, a new voice came, over the ship's comm system. It wasn't one of the crew. It sounded almost human, but with a strange musical quality that made the hairs on everyone's neck stand up. "Welcome, Horizon," the voice said. "We have been waiting for you." The bridge of the Horizon went silent. Every crew member froze at the sound of the strange voice. It had spoken perfect English, yet something about it felt wrong, as if the words were being formed by something that had never known a human mouth. "This is Captain Lisa Warren of the Earth vessel Horizon," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Who am I speaking with?" There was a pause, then the voice returned. "We are the gatekeeper. We maintain the boundary between developing species and the greater community." Dr. Nichols stepped forward. "You created the Veil?" "Yes. Your people call it the Veil. Others have different names for it. It serves the same purpose for all." Captain Warren's mind raced with questions. What happened to our other ships? The ones that came before us? The massive structures they had seen earlier began to glow with soft blue light. One by one, the abandoned Earth ships started to move, pulled by invisible forces toward the nearest structure. "They are preserved," the gatekeeper said, "as all who fail the crossing are preserved." Security Chief Lambert raised his weapon instinctively, though there was nothing physical to aim at. "Are we prisoners?" "No. You are guests. You are the first from your world to maintain your vessel's integrity through the crossing. This is significant." Dr. Franklin had been scanning the structures since they appeared. "These readings? They're impossible. These structures are alive, Captain, or at least partly organic." Before anyone could respond to this revelation, the ship shuddered. A beam of light connected the Horizon to the nearest structure. "What are you doing to our ship?" Commander Powell demanded. "Stabilizing. Your technology cannot maintain cohesion in this space without assistance. Time flows differently here." Officer Martinez checked her instruments. "Captain, according to our chronometers, we've been here for 3 minutes. But the readings from Earth suggest 3 weeks have passed there. The implications hit everyone at once. If they returned now, months or years might have passed on Earth. Their loved ones might have already mourned them and moved on." "Why did you let us through when the others failed?" Captain Warren asked. The gatekeeper's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once now. "Your ship had the right protections, and your navigator had the right mind." All eyes turned to Officer Martinez, who looked as confused as everyone else. "I don't understand," she said. "You were born with a neural pattern compatible with our communication methods," the gatekeeper explained. "You heard us when others could not. The instructions you followed came from within." Martinez paled. "The course corrections I made, they felt right, but I couldn't explain why." Communications Officer Garcia suddenly called out from his station. "Captain, I'm receiving signals from the other ships. They're not empty." He played the transmission through the speakers. It was filled with static, but they could make out words. "Horizon, see you. Finally someone made it." "The crews are alive?" Captain Warren asked the gatekeeper. "In a form. Their physical bodies could not survive the transition, but their consciousness remains. They chose to stay and help guide others." Dr. Nichols looked like he might faint. "They're part of the Veil now. That's why we felt like we were being watched. They were watching us." The gatekeeper confirmed this. "They became our helpers, our echoes. They understand human thought in ways we cannot." Engineer Dawson had been quiet, studying the beam connecting their ship to the structure. "This connection is repairing our systems, but it's also changing them." "Yes," the gatekeeper said. "Your vessel must be adapted to exist here." Captain Warren didn't like the sound of that. "And what about us? Are we being adapted too?" "Only if you choose to stay. You have 3 options. You may return to your solar system with basic knowledge of our existence. You may stay and become echoes, helping future travelers. or you may proceed deeper as your species' first true representatives. It was an impossible choice. Return with just enough information to frustrate Earth's scientists, become like the lost crews, or venture even further from home with no guarantee of ever returning. "We need time to discuss this," Captain Warren said. "Time works differently." Here, the gatekeeper reminded them, "Take what you need." The voice fell silent. The crew gathered in the conference room to debate their options. The arguments grew heated quickly. "We have a duty to return and report what we've found," Commander Powell insisted. "But we'd be going back with almost nothing," Dr. Nichols countered. "Just stories no one will believe." Security Chief Lambert pounded the table. "Our mission was to cross the veil and return, not to become aliens ourselves." "They're not asking us to become aliens," Dr. Franklin said. "Just to communicate in a different form." Officer Martinez had been drawing complex patterns on her tablet. When she spoke, her voice was distant again. "We don't all have to make the same choice." The idea hung in the air. Split the crew. Let each person decide their own fate. Captain Warren considered it carefully. It could work. Those who want to return can take the horizon back through the veil. Those who want to stay or go further, Dr. Franklin completed the thought, would become part of something greater than humanity has ever known. They talked for hours, each person wrestling with their own fears and desires. In the end, they took a vote. 7 would return to Earth. Captain Warren, Commander Powell, Security Chief Lambert, and 4 others. 5 would stay and become echoes. Dr. Nichols, Communications Officer Garcia, and 3 crew members who couldn't bear the thought of returning to an Earth where everyone they loved might already be gone. 8 would continue deeper into the unknown. Dr. Franklin, Officer Martinez, Engineer Dawson, and 5 others drawn by the promise of new discoveries. When they informed the gatekeeper of their decision, the voice seemed pleased. "This diversity of choice proves your species' readiness." "Readiness for what?" Captain Warren asked. "For the next phase. Earth has been isolated by the veil not to contain you, but to protect you while you developed. That time is ending. Others have noticed your world. This news sent a chill through everyone. Others? Are they threats? Some would see your resources as valuable, your planet as desirable. The veil has kept them away, but it cannot do so forever. Those who return must warn Earth. Those who become echoes will strengthen the veil. Those who proceed will learn what alliances you might form." Suddenly, their 3-way split made perfect sense. Each group had a vital mission. The gatekeeper gave them 1 day to prepare. The horizon would be modified to survive the return journey. Those staying would begin their transformation. Those continuing onward would be provided a suitable vessel. As they made their preparations, Captain Warren found Officer Martinez on the observation deck, staring at the massive structures. "Are you sure about your choice?" Warren asked her. Martinez nodded. "I've been dreaming of what's out there my whole life. I just didn't know it until now. I'll make sure Earth knows what you've done, all of you. And we'll make sure whatever's out there knows that humans are worth knowing," Martinez replied with a smile. They clasped hands, 2 explorers choosing different paths, but united in purpose. The next day, as the crew prepared to separate, the gatekeeper spoke to them one final time. "Remember this. No data returns from beyond Earth's border, not because it cannot, but because those who find what lies beyond choose a different path. The choice is what makes you ready." The modified horizon detached from the structure, ready for its return journey. The others said their goodbyes, each group facing a future none of them could have imagined when they left Earth. The horizon shuddered as it prepared to re-enter the veil. Captain Warren watched from the command chair as her reduced crew worked their stations. The ship felt empty now. Half the crew had stayed behind, choosing different paths. "Final systems. Check," she ordered, pushing away the sadness that threatened to overwhelm her. "All modified systems functioning at 90% capacity," reported one of the remaining engineers. "The gatekeeper's changes are holding steady." Commander Powell stood beside her chair. "Do you think we'll make it back?" "We have to," she replied simply. Earth needs to know what's coming. The horizon approached the veil from the other side now. It looked different from this angle, less like a barrier and more like a doorway. The swirling colors seemed almost inviting. Entering. In 3, 2, 1. The pilot counted down. The transition was smoother this time. There was a brief moment of disorientation, but the light stayed on and the systems remained stable. The gatekeeper's modifications worked perfectly. Once they were fully inside the veil, they noticed something new. Shapes moved within the swirling colors. Human shapes. The echoes. Commander Powell whispered. Our people who stayed behind. One of the shapes approached the viewport. Though its features were blurry, Captain Warren recognized Dr. Nichols. He raised a hand in farewell as the ship passed through. They're already changed, Security Chief Lambert said, his voice tight with emotion. So fast. Time works differently, here, Captain Warren reminded him. For them, it might have been years already. The journey back through the veil took only hours instead of days. When they emerged on the other side, back in their own solar system, their communication system immediately lit up with signals. Captain, we're receiving hundreds of transmissions from Earth, the remaining communications officer reported. According to their timestamps, we've been gone for 2 months. 2 months. Not as bad as they had feared, but still long enough for Earth to have given them up for dead. Open a channel to Earth Command, Captain Warren ordered. When the connection was established, the faces that greeted them were shocked. General Harris, the head of the space program, looked like he had seen a ghost. Horizon, is that really you? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Yes, sir. We've returned from beyond the veil, Captain Warren reported. But we bring urgent news. Earth is not as isolated as we thought, and we may face threats in the near future. As the Horizon made its way back to Earth, Captain Warren thought about her crew members who had chosen to become echoes, strengthening the veil to better protect humanity. She wondered if they regretted their choice yet, or if they had already forgotten what it meant to be human. Meanwhile, beyond the veil, Dr. Franklin and her group prepared for their journey deeper into the unknown. The gatekeeper had provided them with a new vessel, unlike anything built by human hands. It looked more grown than manufactured, with smooth organic curves and systems that responded to thought as much as touch. It's alive, Engineer Dawson said with wonder as he ran his hands over the controls, at least partly. Officer Martinez had adapted to the new environment faster than the others. Since arriving, her connection to the gatekeeper had grown stronger. She understood things the others didn't, almost as if she had always belonged here. The ship is called the Pathfinder, she told them. In their language, it means one who makes safe the way for others. Their language? Dr. Franklin asked. You can understand it now? Martinez nodded. More and more, it's like it was always in my head, but I couldn't hear it until now. The 8 humans who had chosen to continue were given 3 days to learn their new ship before departing. The gatekeeper explained that they would be traveling to what humans might call a hub, a meeting place of many species. You will be the first humans many have encountered, the gatekeeper warned them. How you behave will shape how your species is perceived. Dr. Franklin took this responsibility seriously. As a xenobiologist, she had spent her career preparing for alien contact. Now she would be the alien, arriving in someone else's world. Need to establish protocols, she told the others. Rules for interaction, communication guidelines, contingency plans. Engineer Dawson was more concerned with understanding their new ship. This technology is centuries beyond ours, maybe millennia. I'm not sure I can fix it if something goes wrong. You won't need to fix it in the way you understand repairs, Martinez explained. The ship heals itself when damaged. It just needs the right energy. The third group, those who had chosen to become echoes, experienced the most dramatic changes. Dr. Nichols and Communications Officer Garcia found their consciousness expanding beyond their physical bodies. They could sense the veil in its entirety. could feel the other echoes who had once been human. "I can see forever," Garcia said, his voice no longer coming from a human throat, but rippling through the veil itself. "I can feel Earth on one side, and the vastness on the other." Dr. Nichols had worried he would lose himself in the transition, that his identity would dissolve. Instead, he found himself more aware than ever before. He could perceive dimensions he hadn't known existed, and he could feel the threats the gatekeeper had warned about. Other intelligences probing the veil, looking for weaknesses. "They're coming," he told the other echoes. "Sooner than we thought." Together, the former humans worked to strengthen the veil, using their understanding of their own species to create better protections. They reached out to the horizon as it passed through, sharing what they had learned in the time-distorted space of the veil. Captain Warren received these impressions as strange dreams during the return journey. She saw shadowy fleets gathering, worlds burned clean of life, resources stripped away. But she also saw potential allies, species that had faced similar threats and survived, knowledge that could help Earth prepare. When the horizon finally reached Earth orbit, they were met by a fleet of ships, not the welcome they had expected but a precaution. No one had believed they would return. "Horizon, maintain position," came the order from Earth Command. "Prepare to be boarded and quarantined." Captain Warren understood their caution. "Acknowledged, Command. We have critical information about what lies beyond the veil. Earth needs to prepare." As the quarantine team approached in their sealed shuttles, Captain Warren looked out at the blue-green planet below. Home, still innocent of what waited beyond its borders, still unaware that its isolation was ending. "We made it back," Commander Powell said, standing beside her. "But everything has changed, hasn't it?" She nodded. "This is just the beginning. The real journey starts now." 6 months after the Horizon's return, Earth was a changed world. The quarantine had lasted only 2 weeks before the urgency of Captain Warren's message forced Earth's leaders to act. The data they brought back about potential threats beyond the veil had sparked a global effort unlike anything since the early space race. Captain Warren stood at the window of the newly built Space Defense Headquarters, watching ships take off from the nearby launch facility. Each one carried improved versions of the technology that had allowed the Horizon to survive the veil. "Admiral Warren," a voice called from behind her. She still wasn't used to her new rank. She turned to see Commander Powell, now Captain Powell, walking toward her with a tablet in hand. "The latest reports from our scout ships," he said, handing it to her. She scanned the information quickly. 10 more ships had been sent toward the veil in the past month. All had made contact with the echoes. None had gone beyond. "Still no word from Dr. Franklin's team?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Powell shook his head. "Nothing direct. But the echoes say they're alive and making progress." The echoes had become Earth's most valuable asset. Though physically gone, they maintained contact through dreams and occasional brief messages that came through the veil. They warned of approaching dangers and guided Earth's preparations. "The Defense Council meets in 10 minutes, Powell reminded her. "They'll want your assessment of the new shield technology." Warren nodded and took one last look at the ships launching into the sky. Earth was arming itself, not just with weapons, but with knowledge. The isolation was over, and humanity refused to be found unprepared. Beyond the veil, the former humans who had become echoes had created a new layer of protection around Earth's solar system. Dr. Nichols, whose consciousness now extended throughout, the veil itself could feel the approach of alien minds, curious and sometimes hostile. "They're testing us again," he communicated to the others who shared his non-physical existence. His thoughts no longer required words, but he still thought in human concepts. Garcia, once a communications officer and now a pattern of energy within the veil, responded immediately. "The 4th probe this month. They're getting more persistent." Together with the other echoes, they created distortions that confused the probe's sensors. It was like hiding Earth behind a curtain of false data. The probe eventually retreated, but they knew more would come. "We need to warn Earth," Nichols thought. "The strategies are changing. These aren't just scouts anymore. They gathered their collective energy and sent a pulse through the veil, a message that would reach the dreaming minds of those they had once known. The warning was simple: prepare faster. Time is running out. Even farther beyond, Dr. Franklin and her team had reached the hub the gatekeeper had told them about. The Pathfinder had traveled for what felt like weeks to them, though they knew time flowed differently in this space. When they arrived, the sight left them speechless. The hub was a massive structure that seemed to float in the void between stars. It was shaped like a wheel with countless spokes reaching outward. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around it in complex patterns. Some were tiny, barely visible specks. Others were so large they could swallow Earth's moon. "It's incredible," Dr. Franklin whispered as they approached. "So many different designs, different technologies." Officer Martinez sat at the controls of the Pathfinder, her eyes half closed as she communicated with the ship. "They're directing us to a docking port, one reserved for new species." The 8 humans looked at each other. They were about to become the representatives of their entire species to this galactic community. Engineer Dawson had spent their journey studying the ship's systems. "Remember what the gatekeeper told us. How we behave will shape how humanity is perceived." They docked with the hub and prepared to disembark. The airlock opened to reveal a wide corridor with walls that shifted colors subtly. A figure waited. For them. Humanoid in shape, but clearly not human. Its skin shimmered with a metallic blue sheen, and its eyes were large and entirely black. "Welcome, humans," it said in perfect English. "I am Nara, your guide. The council awaits you." Dr. Franklin stepped forward as their chosen spokesperson. "Thank you for receiving us. We come seeking knowledge and friendship." Nara inclined its head. "Those are good things to seek, but I must warn you, not all here will believe your intentions. Earth has been isolated for a reason, and some believe it should remain so." As they followed Nara through the hub, they saw creatures of all descriptions. Some noticed them and stopped to stare. Others seemed to avoid them deliberately. "Why has Earth been isolated?" Dr. Franklin asked. "That is for the council to explain," Nara replied. "But I can tell you that your world sits at an important crossroads of space. Many would claim it if they could." They were led to a vast chamber where beings sat in a tiered circle. Some appeared almost human. Others were so alien the humans couldn't even guess at their biology. "The human delegation may approach," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. As they stepped forward, images appeared in the air above them. Earth, the solar system, the veil. "Your kind has breached the quarantine barrier," said one of the council members, a tall, thin being with silvery skin. "This is unexpected. We seek to understand why it was placed there," Dr. Franklin replied, "and to learn our place in the wider universe." Another council member who looked like a collection of floating crystals spoke next. "Earth sits at the junction of 3 territories long disputed. The quarantine was placed to prevent you from becoming pawns in a conflict you could not understand. But others have found you now," added a third voice. "The protective measures are failing. We must decide whether to abandon Earth to its fate or extend our protection in more direct ways." The humans looked at each other in alarm. This was not the welcome they had expected. "We don't need to be abandoned or controlled," Dr. Franklin said firmly. "We can be allies, partners. Earth is learning quickly. We have already strengthened the veil with our own people. We call them the Echoes." This caused a stir among the council. They conferred in sounds and signals the humans couldn't understand. Finally, the first council member spoke again. "This is unprecedented. No protected species has ever contributed to their own quarantine field before." "Humans adapt," Officer Martinez said simply. "It's what we do best." Back on Earth, Admiral Warren woke suddenly from a deep sleep. The warning from the Echoes had reached her as a vivid dream. She immediately called an emergency session of the Defense Council. As Earth's leaders gathered, she delivered the message. "The time for preparation is over. They're coming." Within hours, Earth's new defense fleet took position near the veil. They were met by strange distortions in space. The Echoes, making themselves visible for the first time. And as the first alien probe broke through the veil, humanity stood ready, not alone but as part of something much larger than they had ever imagined. The barrier had never been meant to keep them in, but to give them time to become what they needed to be. No data returned from beyond Earth's border, not because no one survived, but because those who went beyond found a greater purpose. And now, that purpose had come home.